Healing physical symptoms and illnesses. Having past life experiences often allows people to discard more than their fears. Physical symptoms or disease can disappear as well. Such events point again toward the validation of the concept of past lives, because imagination and fantasy do not cure chronic illnesses. Physical healings can be dramatic and rapid, permitting the patients to throw open the jail doors of disabilities and leave behind the constricting conditions that have been robbing their lives of joy. They are healthy again, mobile again, free again. And a healthier body allows more energy, more time, and more opportunity to accomplish the tasks that we were sent here to do. The body and the mind are interconnected. What heals one often heals the other. Stress can bring about physical disease as well as emotional illness. Remembering the past life trauma or event that has resulted in a current life physical symptom is often enough the cure. A deeper spiritual awareness inevitably accompanies the physical healing. If a wound to a past life body has resulted in a similar symptom in the present life body, the connecting consciousness, or soul, must be the bridge between the two. And we are that connecting consciousness, reaching across the years to manifest once again in physical form. The soul itself is never harmed, because its nature is spiritual and eternal. But the pain and disability of physical illness can cause great suffering and can hamper the soul's progress during the incarnation. Past life regression therapy can help people get rid of pain, breathe normally again, regain impaired or lost physical function and energy, and heal their hearts and other organs. Here are some fascinating cases of people who were able to regain their health by remembering the past life causes, and other origins, of their current life symptoms. Badge of honor. The very first regression that I ever conducted proved to be quite meaningful. It took place at Omega in the summer of 2006. The client was an attractive woman in her early 30s, with long blonde hair and blue eyes. She had sought me out, saying that she would appreciate it if I practiced performing a regression on her. After issuing a caveat of no promises, I agreed to do it that afternoon. She lay down on some pillows, and the regression took place on the floor in the big meeting room. Many others were in the room, practicing, performing, and receiving regressions. It was, to say the least, very loud in there. The woman was single but had a long-standing relationship with her boyfriend. She had read many lives, many masters, although she did not know what to expect as far as the regression was concerned. I didn't know what to expect either. Her life in New York City seemed to be going pretty well. She did have one physical complaint, a back pain that she had had for most of her life. An accurate diagnosis of the cause of the pain had never been made. I wrote that down, making a mental note that it might be significant for the regression. Though I had not met or studied with Brian and Carol previously, I did have an essential grasp of how they conducted regressions. I had read all of Brian's books to that time and had listened to a number of his regression CDs. I still needed to read from the script with which I was provided in the class, in order to stay on track, direct, and respond appropriately. Yet I was not nervous. Perhaps this was because I had been a psychotherapist for a long time by then. I guess you could say I took to regression like a duck to water. It came quite naturally to me, and I enjoyed the process. As I started to deepen the client for the third time, I began to see signs that she was very deep already. All of the muscles in her face were relaxed, and the muscles in her body seemed to be as well. Soon, she had a beautiful remembrance of a birthday that she had as a young girl. She remembered her party, her friends who had come, and all of the gifts that she received. She couldn't get over how young and attractive her parents were. I let her linger there, drink it all in, as it were, and then began to take her back in time to another life and to an important memory that was waiting for her. Her eyes began to dart from side to side rapidly beneath their lids. I knew that was a sign that she was beginning to see things. She found herself in a wooded area, a deep forest. Looking down, she saw that she was wearing moccasins and carrying a bow. A quiver of arrows hung on her back, and she moccasins and carrying a bow. A quiver of arrows hung on her back, and she wore a deerskin breechcloth. She was a handsome young Native American male, and he was hunting. She began to mix expressions of how beautiful the woods were with statements of concern about being there. She was nervous, for it wasn't safe. I asked why, and she replied that there were two tribes fighting for the rights to the hunting ground, and that braves from both tribes had been killed in those woods because of this ongoing battle. She had spotted a deer and was about to draw her arrow when she suddenly felt another arrow strike her hard in the back. She fell to the ground. An Indian brave from the other tribe had shot her. Petrified with fear and in excruciating pain, she was on the ground, anticipating his approach. Her level of distress and perceived pain were palpable and so great that I performed my first ever float above technique. It worked. As she began to float above and observe the scene, she became significantly calmer, and she began to describe what was happening below. The Indian who had shot her was now approaching with a tomahawk to kill her. Though she was now feeling no pain and reflecting a sense of detachment from what she was seeing, her breathing was still somewhat shallow and rapid, and her face began to show tremendous fear as he came closer. "He's going to finish me off with the tomahawk," she cried. To her amazement, as the other man lifted it to strike her, he changed his mind and slipped the weapon in its sheath. He bent down, lifted her up, and threw her over his shoulder. "He's taking me back to his village, maybe to torture me or kill me there. Perhaps he wants to mock me, or make some kind of example of me, or hold me hostage," she said. The attacker carried the wounded brave into his village, described as a circle of about 20 teepees with a large common area in the middle. He brought her to the tribe's medicine man. As the village healer began to carefully remove the arrow and apply some kind of herb poultice on the wound, the chief of the tribe approached. He was not pleased. "Why have you brought this brave to our village? He should have been left dead in the woods as an example to the others who would steal our hunting ground," the chief said in anger. The young brave replied that these same Indians had long been at peace with their tribe, and that they should not be killing their brothers over hunting ground. He said he would not kill them, and that they should kill them no more. The chief was furious, and he asked the medicine man to finish off the chief was furious, and he asked the medicine man to finish off the wounded brave. "I don't kill my brothers, I heal them," the medicine man answered as he began to wrap and cover the wound. "This brave is right. We should not kill our brothers, but make peace." I moved the client forward to the next important event. "It has been a few days, and I am well enough to walk. Several braves are walking with me to my village, on the bank of the river," she said. Their party was well received as the wounded brave explained what had happened and why they were there together, to make peace between the tribes. The chief of that tribe was visibly moved and thankful for the safe return of this brave. "Yes, this is good," he said. "For too long, too many of our braves have died for this hunting ground. In the past, we have shared this ground. We will share it again. We will smoke the peace pipe and make war no more with our brothers." The treaty was agreed upon, the killing stopped, and the land was shared. The wounded brave made a complete recovery and lived a long life, during which he was somewhat revered as the instrument of peace that he had become. His passing was a calm one, surrounded by his family and friends. I asked the woman to identify the lessons of that lifetime. She seemed to be crying tears of joy. We had long lived as brothers in this place, helping each other and sharing our lives in many ways. Killing our brothers was wrong. The way of love is the only way. I was an instrument of peace in that life. What a beautiful lesson I lived to tell. I believe that I have been wearing my wounded back like a badge of honor in this life. Somewhere deep inside, I remembered this life and this honor, and I became confused. How were you confused? I wondered aloud. The place where my back hurts in this life is the same place where I was struck with that arrow so long ago. I became proud of that wound and would not let it go. I wore it like a badge of courage and honor, as it brought life and peace to both tribes," she said. Big tears were rolling down her cheeks. I asked if she had learned that lesson, if she could be proud of what she had helped the tribes achieve but now set down this pain, as it no longer served her in this life. "Yes," she said. She was ready now. "Go ahead, then, find a place to set it down and walk away from it. You don't need it anymore," I directed her. It was something to be very proud of, but it has served its purpose. Let it go. Lay the badge down. Still crying, she described how she laid the badge down on a stump in the forest, near where she was shot, and walked away. I then brought the client out of her trance state, gave her some time to readjust to the room, and asked her to tell me how she felt. She sighed heavily and said that she felt lighter, relieved, and very calm. Then, with a curious tone of awe, she added, "My back doesn't hurt anymore. Not at all. It feels like I really did lay down that badge of honor. I don't hurt anymore. I was equally amazed. Yes, you didn't need it anymore. You realized where it came from and you let it go. Wonderful, I said, wonderful. I would regress 7 others that first week at Omega, but none were more significant or memorable than this first. Michael Brown. Michael is a talented and empathic therapist, and he did an excellent job with his first regression. I always stress the importance of the life review because it sets a perspective for the entire lifetime as well as identifies connections to the current life. In this case, the physical healing of the client's chronic back pain was immediate when the causal connection to the arrow wound was discovered. This pattern of healing pain, psychosomatic disorders, and other physical symptoms and illnesses is a classical one, and it is often encountered when doing past life regressions. The life lesson of choosing peace and compassion over war and violence is both common and important. We are here to learn about love, kindness, and cooperation. We must renounce hatred and prejudice and overcome our fears. I would not be surprised if, in a subsequent past life memory or dream, Michael's client were to recognize the warrior who chose to spare her life in that ancient time as someone in her current life. The karmic bond between them is considerable. Such bonds help us to establish soulmate connections. Indigenous cultures often possessed great intuitive wisdom. They understood about balance and harmony, about moderation and simplicity, about caring for nature and the planet. They hunted for food and shelter, but they knew better than to eliminate species and to ruin living environments. They used only what they needed and did not accumulate obsessively or excessively. When we look at these cultures through the lens of past life therapy, a kind of regression archaeology, these noble traits and values consistently emerge. It would benefit us to remember our roots. In indigenous societies, shamans and other healers used natural substances to treat their people. As organized religions gained control, such healing practices became very dangerous for their practitioners. A 1,000-year inquisition transpired. Valari's story, which follows Soulmate. This is a part of Zindagi Ki Roshni consultancy. It has been established for those who have lost someone and for those who are very sad in their life. About 100 PDF books and 20 short audio books of this topic will be sent to those who join it. This data will be sent to their email or WhatsApp. If you want to join this organization, then please send WhatsApp message to this number.